Great. All right, you guys, what is going on? This is Blaise here at the Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast. I'm stoked to have Malcolm Boone on today. I'm going to forego all of our readings of sponsorships. All this stuff's going to be in the show notes. I'm going to preload, I guess, all you guys. I'm going to leave all of Malcolm's stuff down there as well from the episode today. So if you guys want to find him, don't be weird. Go ahead and search him up. I'm excited to chat with him today. Full disclosure, I don't actually know a ton about him and what his background is, so I'm pretty stoked to get into it. We met through my business coaches, mutual friends, Dave and Jeremy, and I'm excited to kind of hear more about you. So without further ado, brother, take it away. Tell me origin story. Tell me a little bit about you, what you do, some of the stuff that you got going on. I'm excited to get into it.
Sweet. Blaise, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really, really appreciate the connection, the time, the space. Let's get into it. Brief origin story. Briefly about me, born and raised in New York. I was born in Manhattan, spent my early years in the Bronx, New York, until my parents moved in 1999. And then we went to Warwick, New York, so a little bit further up north from New York City. And was in sports all throughout, baseball, football, basketball, did all the things growing up. And then, decided to solely focus on basketball. Played, again, throughout middle school, high school. Went to college, played 4 years of college ball there. And then
Where'd you go to school?
What's that?
Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to play college ball at?
I went to Keystone College. It's a small D3 school up in northeastern PA.
Cool.
So spent my time up there, man, 4 years there. Studied sports management. Thought I wanted to be a broadcaster and realized very quickly that's not what I wanted to do. So then, ended up going overseas to play pro ball in Germany. So played overseas for a few years. My brother was over there as well. So that was amazing. We got a chance to play in the same city and go to each other's games. And it was really awesome, man. So that was a special moment in my sports journey as well. Played for a few years, came back, had no idea what I wanted to do next. Went through that entire identity crisis of was known as an athlete pretty much most of my life. And now I did something that was super cool to me, but to the rest of the world, it was, how can you be beneficial to our company? What are you going to do next? And so I made the hard transition into education shortly after. And so started as an elementary school educator, man. Went back to school, got my master's degree in teaching, and then was in New York City, right back where I started for 3 years. COVID hit, wanted to change. It was really bad in NYC. So actually moved to Georgia. So from NYC to rural Georgia. Taught 5 years in private school there. Yeah, it was an interesting jump. And everybody I've said that to, they've always said, dude, that's quite the change. If you were looking for a change, you got one. And I most certainly did. So I was down there for a while, 5 years at that school. And then, man, that was 8 years in the classroom. And so I knew at that point, a lot of the things that I started to adopt both from sports and from life in general, but what I was teaching my kids, my students, that is, in terms of mindset, in terms of breathwork, mindfulness, that stuff started to slowly become my passion. And in teaching these kids and seeing a difference in them mentally, physically, emotionally, I knew that there was something more there. I just couldn't pinpoint it. And so eventually, after that last year at that school in Georgia, I decided to pivot, move closer to my parents in Florida, and then start my own business. And so now I am a wellness and resilience speaker, and I speak to youth organizations, schools, programs all around mental well-being and helping kids slow down in a fast-paced world, helping people build a resilient mindset in a tough world, man. It's hard, and our mental really struggles. So now my goal is to speak and give that back to.
Dude, this is super cool. I've got so many questions actually too from just that little bit. One, cool. Like, What you're teaching, you're doing elementary education. So kids are, I guess, like now 4 to 10, maybe 11. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Now, how do you break down the importance of breath work and mindfulness in these things to people that like are definitely like in that younger age demographic? I feel like it's pretty hard to for a lot of adults for sure to communicate with them. I'm sure the masters in teaching and effective communication and that stuff is kind of built, but tell me about how that like what's the shift that you saw? Like you're speaking to this, 5-year-old kid who's having a tantrum and you're like, just be mindful. And they're like, what is this guy saying to me? And they're like, like running all over the place. Like, tell me about how that goes as an educator. And I'll tell you too, my partner, my wife is working as a substitute teacher now, and in the elementary school, she's been at elementary school for 2 weeks, and is going to end up going back there after a week away probably, and she really likes it. So I'm, selfishly, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. One and two, I'm interested to hear like, from just speaking to kids that age. I know that can be a challenge for a lot of people. So there's probably a lot of benefit that people will get from hearing you talk about it.
Mm, I appreciate that, man. Shout out to your wife too, because I know a lot of people aren't always willing to make that jump into that space. So huge shout out to her. And I thank her for what she does. The biggest thing I would say is introducing it to them when they are open to receiving it. So if a child is having a meltdown and a tantrum and they've never had a touch point with breathwork or mindfulness, I'm probably not going to share it with them in that moment. My goal in the classroom was to always build a routine of it. So before we would start our day, all right, you guys ready? We're going to have a great day today. We're going to get our mindset right. Everybody just take one deep breath in, long exhale out. Okay, let's go. And that's it. It doesn't have to be this big drawn out thing where you dim the lights and you put some fake candles out and you play the soft music and you sit down a certain way. It does not have to be that. It's simply just introducing something to them that they already do. We all do every single day. I always like to just say it's flipping an awareness switch on. And once you know that that awareness switch is on, you know that you're aware. If your awareness switch is off, then it's going to be hard for you to be aware of what's going on both inside and around you. So my big thing was building routine with it. Primarily, especially after recess, we'd come in, the kids would be on one, they'd be hopping off the walls. They still got all that energy from the sun and running and all that. So it's going to be hard for them to dial back into science, dial
Yeah.
back in. So, hey, we're going to build out a quick little mindfulness routine. We're going to carve out some space. All we're going to do is we're going to take 4, 5, 6 mindful breaths together. And what starts to happen, Blaise, is that the kids start to catch on and the kids start to feel a certain kind of way. Something's changing in their body and they don't understand the science behind it, but kids are learners. So if you give them something that's different, if you give them something that they might not notice or feel necessarily up front, but maybe on the back end, they're going to be curious. And what I've noticed is that this work with them sparks their curiosity. And once they want to know, hey, Mr. Boone, what's happening in my body? Hey, why do I feel calm? Hey, why don't I feel like I'm on one anymore? Let's break it down. But once you can build a rhythm and a routine with kids, kids love structure for the most part. So that's what I started to do with them. They started to see it. They started to feel it. And then if we ever missed a moment or a day, they would say, Mr. Boone, what's going on with mindfulness? Why are we not taking our breaths today? And so that was always fun. Yeah, man, just building it in with them and seeing the change. And the big thing with them was they now had a tool, because I keep it real with my students. I always have, I always will. I would let them know, hey, life can be stressful sometimes. And we all have that tool within us, that tool of breath work, that tool of breathing that we always do. All we have to do is flip that awareness switch on and we can go from a stressful state to a restful state pretty quickly.
That's cool, man. It's unique, or maybe it's so obvious that like why haven't we done that before? But like starting your day, building out the routine of that. And it's just like anything, right? Movement, sleep routines, any of those types of things. Like people are definitely routine oriented, whether you're a kid or an adult, it doesn't matter. But starting your day with, hey, I'm gonna take one nice big breath, be aware, and then finishing a what I'll call a stressful event, which recess, dude, recess was the peak, bro. I don't know about
Mhm.
you. It was like if I'm getting out there, it's soccer, I'm throwing bombs, I'm running, I'm sweaty, I'm gross, it's like, oh my gosh, dude, I was on it. You come back in and like if I was then having a tantrum, I can totally understand. Like you need to be receptive to the thing and build the routine in before you even understand the tool exists.
Yes.
And especially with kids, right? Because they're not fully developed and not knowing that. I don't even think adults are fully developed, to be honest. I don't know. People say brain stops at 25 or whatever, but I don't know. I still
Mhm.
feel like I'm like 14 at heart, Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to stop, but
Yeah,
it's
man.
so cool, man. That's really unique. Now tell me, you started to develop this, you start to see it in the kids before, and you came New York. I'm assuming you were doing this type of stuff up there as well in New York
Yep.
and in Georgia.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
and then you're like, now, geez, now this is what I'm starting to get passionate about and curious about. So like now the shift to running your own business and moving down closer to parents and then bringing that business to that same demographic where you're speaking to kids, like walk me through that. Walk me through one, the decision to make that happen, because it takes some guts to do, to leave something that I would call as safe and secure for the unknown
True.
of running a business.
Hmm.
And then two, talk to me about like how that is now, how the initial, I guess, thought of like what the business would look like to now to where what does it look like to go and speak to a group of I'm envisioning you in front of an amphitheater of like 100 kids or something like that, taking them through like a mindfulness and breath work thing, or like maybe it's with teachers and giving them the tools, but I might be like super off in my assumptions. So help me out and help me understand the jump to business, number one, and two, like what does a day in the life of Malcolm look like now?
Hmm. So I'm big with numbers, numerology, signs from the universe, things of that nature. And for me, when I was in my fifth year at that school in Georgia, I shifted from a third grade classroom teacher to the lower school or the coordinator of lower school health and wellness. So my job was to then go through classrooms K through 5 and talk to them about breathwork, affirmations, mindfulness, movement, things like that. So it went from just a very targeted classroom with 10 to 12 kids a day to now the entire lower school, which was anywhere between 2 to 300 or something like that. I don't know. But I was thinking, do I take what I'm doing in this role and somehow try to build out a program or a curriculum and begin selling that to schools? Or what is it? What's my next step? I did not know. But I was in this phase of, I know this is going to be my last year here, and I know I need to do something more. So from there, I'll never forget, I was on what they call duty at this school. It's a private school, and when you're on duty, you basically are on for the whole day. Could be a weekday or a weekend. This particular day was a weekend. And I was in the gym because I had to supervise some of the kids. It's a boarding school as well. So there are kids from all over the country and all over the world, really, that come and our borders here. And so some kids were training and working out. And I was sitting down, I was at a desk, and I was trying to figure out what is this next step. And I'll never forget, it was January 11th. And I'll tell you why that's pretty profound in a second. But I had this moment and I'm building out on Canva this curriculum. I'm building this program out that I feel needs to be out into the world. And then it hit me at this moment. I said, no, 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 no. I don't have to do this because this program isn't going to be the thing that's out there. I said, my voice is what needs to be out there. I don't need to sell anything to anybody. I just have to speak to them. And at that moment, I said, what if I became a wellness speaker? I didn't have the title I do now, wellness and resilience. I said, what if I was just a wellness speaker? And at that time, Blaise, on January 11th, which is 1/11, I happened to look at the time. I just randomly tapped my phone and it was 11/11. And 11/11 is...
I hope AM, not PM. And
It
those
was
kids were in the
definitely
gym.
AM.
All
Yes.
right. All right.
100%. Yeah. Weight room closes at 8 for the
I was
kids.
about to say, man, those kids are on one if you're in there 11 PM. Come on.
Definitely AM. Oh, man. Can't tell you that I was up the last time I was up to 11 Man. So at that time, it was 11/11 on 1/11. And I had this fruition come to me. And I said, that's what you need to do. You need to be a speaker. So I started researching, how do you become a speaker? How does someone speak to schools? And so I just boom, 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 started figuring out some information, doing all the back end things. And at that moment, I said, all right, it's time to pivot. It's time to pivot. We're going to figure it out. And that's what I did. And then the more I started to share it with people in my immediate circle, the more it was confirmed. And I went after it, man. But I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know the first thing about creating an LLC. I didn't know the first thing about marketing yourself. I didn't know any of these things that I started to figure out along the way. Insert Built Different community with Dave and Jeremy. And that's been so helpful. It's been so helpful to be around people that have done this before. And so that's what I did, man. I just took the leap because I believed in it. At that moment, it was confirmed and affirmed. And here we are. And so when it comes down to figuring out how to structure myself in the space around me with communities, man, it's been so much outreach. It's been so much outreach. And I've been part of the Nassau community. So the Nassau School District down here in Florida, Northeast Florida. So I've done some substitute teaching as well. I've spent a lot of time at a bunch of different schools. And a lot of the teachers have asked, a lot of the higher ups, the principals, hey, what's your story kind of thing? We're kind of like this. And a lot of them have just been bought in around the fact that kids could use this, that kids could benefit, because a lot of kids are distracted nowadays, phones, tablets, tech, you name it. And that's been really, really beneficial for me. But also just figuring out, if I'm not giving an assembly speech or if I'm not giving a district-wide talk, Boys and Girls Club, for example, I'll do presentations with them. They have families that come to their facilities. They have kids that come to their facilities. My local church, they do summer basketball camps. We have a ton of other just spaces. There is an organization called Take Stock in Children. And so it's for underprivileged high school students that basically puts them in a program, allows them to receive a scholarship if they can meet certain criteria and requirements, and done a lot of work with them. So yeah, man, I feel it piecing together. I see it coming together. I feel it coming together. And the more and more I practice, the more and more I get out there and continue to market myself and share this with people, the more and more it's been coming together.
That's so cool. So I'm curious now because it's clearly something that you're passionate about, which is, I think, probably the most important thing ever. Like you almost chasing something down like that. It's like, well, I could make $0 and do something that I enjoy. And as long as I'm not on the side of the road, like at least I'm doing that. Right.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious too, like you've been doing this 8 years, I guess, total in schools when you're teaching, or I guess bouncing that fifth year where you're kind of doing it with all those students. And now, how long you been doing the business for now? Perfect. Yeah. So you've been doing that almost a year now too.
Yes.
So tell me about like when you walk in, maybe this is like when you walk in on day one of the classroom and you like do this thing, what have you seen from a student or whether it's elementary or high school or someone else and like taking them and being like, hey, we're going to do this thing. And whether it was like a cater talk or whether you're building the habits like with the elementary kids, what does that open them up to? Hearing, learning, understanding. Tell me a little bit about like the science of why the breath work is being imported, or why the breath work is so important. So people are able to, learn or check into their rest and digest kind of state. Tell me a little bit about like those types of things and why you've seen this be something that's so beneficial for people in this like crazy like pings and dings and computer tech, AI, all this like checking in kind of with yourself. And I'm sure that you've seen too, like maybe your students versus another teacher's students, who is like had the tools versus not had the tools, and seen like the difference in probably behavior of students, probably ability to teach and retain information, probably just general energy levels. Like I'm curious to hear kind of, I guess, benefits and then a little bit of the science behind some of the stuff that you're doing, because I'm sure that you've done a ton of research at this point too.
Yes. So mine is going right now. Mine is just going a million different directions.
Yeah, good. That's okay. You can come back. We can circle back. It's all good.
No, yeah. I feel so the first thing I will say is that it's been it's been a transfer from the kids to other kids and to their families. So what I mean by that is the kids that have been in my classrooms, they've done so many mindfulness moments. We've taken so many deep breaths. We've affirmed ourselves so much through words and affirmations. What I've started to see, and this has been the big full circle moment for the kids, is that they will go home and they will share those practices with their families. Because let's call it like it is, most of us are stressed out, if not all, to some degree. Everybody has their own degree of stress. These parents will be at home stressing and struggling, and the kids will see it. So now the kids are in tune with, hey, dad, your shoulders are up to your ears. Why don't we drop those down? And because in that moment, the father is not aware, the kid sees it because this is what the kid practices. So the kid will gently say, hey, pops, drop those shoulders real quick. And it's like, oh, wow, thank you. I didn't even know that. Or a kid might see a mom huffing and puffing, breathing heavily through the mouth, losing moisture, losing water, dehydrating herself, activating the sympathetic part of her nervous system, which is telling her, hey, we are in trouble. And the body doesn't know any different.
Run
and the
from
kid
that
would
bear,
say,
bro.
hey, there it is. Grizzly, white, what we doing? Black, real. And so the kids have this sense of awareness now, and they're able to share that. And so I've noticed just this circle of learning for everybody. And I've had a lot of parents come to me and say, hey, so-and-so came home yesterday and asked if we could do a little mindfulness session. I said, your daughter said that? I said, yeah. Sat me down on the couch, turned on some light music, and started guiding me through a 5-minute mindfulness session. And by minute 4, I was passed out on the couch. And I didn't realize how much I needed that. I didn't realize how much tension I was holding. I didn't realize how tired I was. So that's been honestly one of the biggest benefits that I've noticed, is that the kids received it and then they applied it outside of the classroom. And that's the thing I think is going to help them more than anything in the long run, because they have the tool. Well, I always say something called ATAC, ATACC. Number one, the kids are aware. They now have the tools in their back pocket. They are the awareness, they have the tools, and now they are applying. So the application is there. They are doing it consistently, and that's what's going to create the change. And so they're doing that in their spaces outside of the classroom. So that's been one of the biggest things that I have noticed. That's first and foremost. From a science standpoint, everybody's
Hold on,
breathing.
before we get into the science.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I've gotta believe that, like, you should be super proud. I feel like this is
Thank you,
really
man.
unique, right? Like, when you I feel like learning is one thing. Um, Learning to understand yourself. And then there's this huge fundamental, I think, like, gap in understanding that I feel like exists, where it's
Mhm.
one thing to learn and it's another thing to learn, to understand, and then to teach somebody else, right? Like, that's like a huge part of this, right? Like, think about do you really understand something until you can break it down to somebody else and, like, and teach them that thing and take away that one little bit of information to
Mhm.
then, like, apply to someone else and, like, see it. So you
Yeah.
have to be thinking like, hey man, like, you took this 6-year-old kid, you showed them how to be mindful, and then not only did they learn and understand it for themselves, they were then able to identify it in somebody else. And oh, by the way, they didn't just identify it in somebody else, they then took that, permeated that to somebody else who is also they're an adult who's a parent, right? And you want to talk about a whole nother dynamic. Parents learning from something directly like that from a kid. So the kid's able to break it down and be like, hey, learn from me. This is something that I want. So it not only shows that they understand it, it shows that they understand it enough to apply it themselves, teach and or coach somebody else. And then everybody is seeing the benefit, and you're sitting there, and I'm imagining you, and this is probably my far-fetched imagination, maybe it doesn't happen this way, but you're sitting there at a parent teacher conference and Jimmy's mom comes in and she's just like, Malcolm, I don't know if you know this, but Jimmy just led me through this thing and I was falling asleep on the couch. Like, that's literally what I'm thinking about. And I'm like, how cool is that? And then you're not only changing that kid's life and their
Mhm.
ability to handle their stress, but you're changing the parent's life, maybe the brothers and sisters that you probably never will even talk to. Maybe the other parent, they share it with the other spouse or cousin or uncle or whatever. And it's just cool how that, like, web and trickle down of, like, you've affected one person, which then jumps to two and four and, continues down the line. So I wanted to make sure that you knew, one, super, super cool, impressive in your ability to communicate with them so they can then communicate and teach with somebody else. So I feel like that's a skill that really shows full understanding, and the
Mhm.
desire to continue to apply it in their life too. So before you get into science, now rip the science, man. Let me hear about it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that compliment so much. That's the goal, right? That's the ripple effect goal. You never know who you are going to inspire and what that can then transpire into. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I received that wholeheartedly. Science. So I always like to say I break down my work in the three S's: science, strategies, and storytelling. So I give the science because if I don't, then it can be easily perceived as me just rattling things off and rattling mumbo jumbo to people. So yes, when it comes to breathing, when it comes to thoughts and mindset, so we take about, on average, 20,000 breaths each and every day, and kids more. A kid, young 8, 10, 12-year-old kid can breathe in upwards of 35 to 40,000. And so that's where I like to just lay it all out there. Hey, we do this a lot. You do it. I do it. People listening to this do it. So it's applicable to everybody. And I think once you can frame it that way, you get out of the potential space of this being some woo woo kind of thing, because everybody's doing it. And my take on it is just, again, awareness. So if you're doing something that much each and every day, it's going to have an impact on you some way, shape, or form. So there's two types of breathing. I like to frame them as we have horizontal breathing and then we have vertical breathing. So horizontal meaning going out. So getting the oxygen low enough to the diaphragm and the core to see your stomach actually expand. And once you can do that, you are reaching what we call the lower lobes of the lungs, which have parasympathetic fibers all throughout. And so when you get the oxygen down there, you activate those parasympathetic fibers, which tells your body, let's start to shift into a restful state. On the other hand, if you are breathing vertically, which is high into the chest, up and down, almost that panting sort of breathing, in the upper lobes of the chest, we have sympathetic fibers. And when we breathe that way, we turn on the sympathetic part of our nervous system, which, as you mentioned before, the bear is chasing me. I'm in danger. And oftentimes when we breathe through the mouth, which most people do, we activate that sympathetic part of our nervous system. So I always like to tell people, when you can, there are times when you breathe through your mouth. There are times when you do it, sure. But if you have somebody all day who has their mouth wide open and is just breathing like that, number one, you're losing a ton of moisture. The moisture is leaving your body, and when you lose moisture, you lose water. And when you lose water, you dehydrate. Nobody wants to be dehydrated. I always tell people, close your mouth. So
close your mouth. No mouth breathing. Come on now.
Come on now, zip it up.
You don't want to be the dog panting over there on the side. Come on.
Zip that thing up.
Zip the thing up, man.
So those are two big pieces, both horizontal, vertical. And when you can breathe in through your nose, it's going to slow your nervous system down. You're going to also take in more oxygen. That oxygen is going to be better utilized in the body. You take in about 20% more. And so it's just a more efficient and effective way, in my opinion. The science says differently, but in my opinion, well, the science can also say that nasal breathing is much more effective than mouth breathing. But tough to do. And again, starts with awareness. Your mouth can be open all day and you don't have the awareness of it. So that's important too. But yeah, starting there, man, the vertical, the horizontal, the nasal, the mouth. And then I just simply give that to people. I just share it with them, help them become aware of it. And then it's small steps, right? It's small steps. Also, when you exhale, longer than you inhale. A lot of people don't do this. When you exhale longer than you inhale, you are shifting from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state. It automatically tells your body and your nervous system, hey, calm, turn on. Which is why if you inhale for, say, 4, exhale for 6, inhale for 3, exhale for 7. Anytime you exhale longer than you inhale, you're telling your body, I need to slow down. Your nervous system is starting to hit the brakes a little bit. So I think that's a good place to pause. I don't want to throw too much science out here.
No, I love it. So,
yeah, okay.
No, this is great. So
Awesome.
We're going to end up doing this at the end too. I'm going to have you guide me through some. So don't let me forget to do that. We'll leave some people with some, and that just holds them on until the end. That way they get to hang out, listen to us while we chat.
My pleasure.
Tell me too. Like it's super interesting because I feel like the panting, the mouth breathing, the shoulder shrugging, all of these things are bringing all of the, I want to say like the shortness, the tension, all kind of into like the upper part of the chest. And I mean, you played sports, right? You're a basketball player, playing over there. And I'm sure when you're playing basketball and you're taking a ball, you just got an outlet pass down the lane. I'm sure that you're utilizing your sympathetic nervous system to blow by a defender and then go to the hoop and take it to the rack, right? I mean, that's got to be part of the thing. And it's important. And I think that some people that are teaching or coaching about stress management are not identifying the fact that the stress state is important to be able to check into as well, right? Like, hey, if you can't get into the stress state where you're running from the bear or you have this thing happening because some amount of stress is good for you,
Yes.
that's also a problem. So,
yes.
Hey, if you're checking into this, it's important, your high effort, high intensity workout or training session, or again, blown by a defender, or let's say like, you're like me and you're 14 years old running away from the cops after you ding dong dish your neighbor's house. Like you want to make sure that you're checking into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that the reverse of that is also true. If you're unable to check out of that and check into that parasympathetic, i.e. rest and digest state, you're going to be then missing out on all the benefits, the bodily functions, and all those things that are also occurring in that state.
Mhm.
We get into this position where, because we're not in like, human era, call it X amount of thousands of years ago,
Yes.
we get DoorDash delivered to our house. We create deadlines at work that start to build stress. We're
Mhm.
not getting chased by the bear anymore. So we're creating artificial stress that makes the body react the same way. And oh, by the way, what are the things that are happening? Oh, hormone production is getting shut down. People are starting to be not driven, sexually is driven. They're not going to be able to check in and sleep as well because they're, releasing all these additional hormones and they're having all this stuff occur. So if
Mhm.
you're sitting in this chronic state of stress,
Yes.
or unable to check into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest piece, which I think is just so key. So, I think identifying the fact that some amount of stress is good, and
Mhm.
identifying the fact that the ability to bounce between the two with intention and awareness, like you're talking about, is probably even more important. Especially, you leave work, maybe you were stressed out that day, but coming home and being like, okay, like maybe that's something that people can take from this. They could be like, hey, I'm going to have my 5 minutes of a mindfulness activity when I check in from work, so that I'm a better partner to my spouse. I'm a better parent to my kids because I can be in this mental state, vice the one where I'm like bound up like this, turn around like Batman. You know what I'm saying? You can't, because your neck's all tight and all those other
Yeah.
things happening.
Yeah. Yeah, man, there's a balance there. There definitely is a balance, and not all stress is bad stress. I think that's something that people misconceive sometimes. So, for example, if you get in a cold plunge, your body is going to tense up, your heart rate is going to speed up. It will happen. But you are creating that, what they call hormetic stress for yourself. It's a good stress. If you get into a sauna, your heart rate will speed up. Your body is trying to cool itself down. You will sweat. It is uncomfortable. That's a good stress. You are working out. You're lifting heavy weights. You're running. You're squatting. You're sprinting. You're pushing. You're pulling. You're hinging. That's stress on the body. It's a good stress, right? So make no mistake, there are stressors that we put in our lives intentionally that can help us. And there are stressors that we want to try and avoid, because once the stress becomes chronic and it sticks with you day after day after day, that is not where we want to live, because you're having a very hard time, as you mentioned, right? That cortisol is dumping through the body, and now you're having trouble sleeping. Now you're having trouble slowing yourself down. You're maybe having trouble sexually. You're having trouble with your communication. A lot of things start to suffer because we're tricking our bodies into thinking that we're under attack most of the time. And when you start to live there, that's when things start to get really bad. So I always like to say, if you can create stressors in your life that are good, do that, because it's going to make the other stressors more manageable. But when your biggest stress in life is, I don't know, work, or your biggest stress is thoughts and anticipation and anxiety, and you're starting to create that within yourself, all that tension and tightness throughout, and you don't have a healthy way of releasing it through insert whatever it is that you do that's stressful, if you will, then you just live in this state and you are pent up, you're tight, you're wound up, and that's how you start to live. So yeah, man, get those good stressors in your life.
Good stressors, man, for sure. That
Yes,
what's
sir.
interesting too, and I've talked about it with clients that we work with in the past as well. It's like, what if I told you that the reason that you're not losing weight is because you're stressed out? People are just like, what
Mhm.
do you mean? No way.
Yes.
It's all about they start talking to me about calories in, calories out, macronutrients, and all this stuff, and I'm
Mhm.
like, well, hold on. When you're being chased by a bear, what's the body designed to do? the body is designed to cut off all the other ancillary things and just make sure you retain all that energy so that you're able to function for the entirety of that stressful event. And if you're not checking out of that stressful event and you're staying in it over and over and over again, what's the body doing? It's holding on to all those nutrients. It's like when you are in the cold water, there's a reason that your extremities get cold first, right? All of that blood flow and all of that, body heat's coming into the internal organs to keep you alive. And it's
Yes.
prioritizing that. And your body's doing the same thing when you're in that stressful state to prioritize the bodily functions that it deems most important, i.e., staying alive, having energy, and you're retaining all that stuff. So people are like, oh, like what? And it's like, maybe you just need to talk to Malcolm about your breathing ability. Close your mouth. Maybe we'll start there. Just close your mouth and
Zip it.
then and then start going. So tell me, like, I know we started to get science. I think if we start talking science, you and I will probably nerd out and people would be like, oh my, I'm done with this now. But tell me about like the tangible things that you have seen. Like, hey, you go through this activity, whether it's with a group at Boys and Girls Club or the church or with your students, and you've seen like what have you seen as benefits that they may not have even seen right away, or maybe they've reflected on after a couple sessions, or maybe even like a year of like working with the same classroom. Like, what are some things that you've seen changes in them? Maybe you hear from their parents or some other source. Like, I want to hear benefits of the type of awareness that you're bringing in the way that you've, I guess, started to be like, hey, this is something that is really beneficial for people, and this is why.
Mhm. I had a recent presentation at the Boys and Girls Club. This was actually right before Christmas. And I was taking them through a couple different activities. First one was a balloon activity. Had them inhale, had them exhale deep into the balloon, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And then we would do that a couple times until the balloon was full. And I had them write one word on the balloon that they wanted to carry with them into the new year. Did another activity where it was a stress to strength walk, where I'd have parents on one side of the court, the baseline, and then kids on the other side of the baseline. And then parents would mimic the kids based on what it looks like to carry stress. And then we'd do the other side, vice versa. And then we turn that into strength. And then they'd mimic each other walking towards one another, showing what it looks like to be confident, to be poised, and to be empowered. And at the end of the session, I had a parent come up to me. It was right after I closed out. And she came to me and said, I just want, well, firstly, she was bawling. And I looked at her and I said, I'm here. What's on your mind? And she said, I just want to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you. And she said, life is a struggle. My daughter, who was with her as well, not while she was speaking to me, but who was at the event with her, she said, I try and tell her these things all the time around slowing down and being mindful and breathing and keeping your thoughts positive. But I don't know what's sticking and what's not. Your session tonight, it stuck. She was listening to everything that you said. She's going through her own mental health issues. Whatever you put out there tonight, she received. And I just want the best for her. And I just want to say thank you so much, because this is going to change her life. I did not know that that's how she felt until she came and approached me about it. But this lady was in shambles. I actually just received a direct message from a student in somewhere in Nassau County. I do not know. There's tens of thousands. They have so many kids here. And she said, I just want to say thank you. You sub at my school sometimes. Your words, what you speak, it matters. I'm going through my own mental health issues, and I've never seen this student a day in my life. But what I'm going through, you're helping me. Thank you so much for this. Thank you, because What you're doing matters. Thank you so much, Mr. Boone. I had one parent approach me one time and she said, I wasn't so sure that what you were doing with my kid was working in the beginning. So she approached me with, yeah, I was skeptical. I said, no problem. She said, but that was until yesterday. She proceeded to tell me, yesterday, my child had homework to do, math homework specifically. They were working on their homework, couldn't figure out the question. At that moment, got frustrated, started to cry, ran off to the bathroom. In the bathroom, they're in there. The mom ended up walking, following them, but the kid did not know that the mom was outside of the bathroom. So she looks in the bathroom, sees the child gripping a toothbrush, looking down at it, breathing deep, and repeating the affirmations that we used to say in class. I am capable of more than I know. I am capable of more than I know. The only way I fail is if I quit. The only way I fail is if I quit. Keep going. Keep going. The only limit is your mind. The only limit is your mind. Busting out these affirmations. So the mom sees this happening, goes back to the living room. 2 minutes later, the kid comes back to the living room, says to her, Mom, I'm sorry. I had a moment. I'm now ready to learn. And she told me face to face the story I just told you. And she said, whatever you are doing, I was skeptical at first, but now I know that my child is forever changed because of what he's now telling himself and the way he's breathing. I was touched. And that is, Blaise, that's the idea that you never know. You never know who's listening and who needs what you're saying. So keep going and keep saying it.
Man, that's super cool. A couple powerful stories, man. And you've only been doing this for what? Since May? Talk about it, man. It's super
Man.
cool. It's super
Thank
cool.
you.
Could you imagine, like, it's permeating to different people. And I will say there's still, I think that the stigma is improving about the breath work, stress management, and I believe you said resiliency, a health and resiliency kind of speaker. I think that that message is starting to shift. It's slow for sure.
Great.
From a, hey, this is a little bit woo woo, and
Yes.
maybe like the yogi that smokes a little bit too much pot, maybe,
Yep.
or whatever the old perception was. To now, people are like, oh man, like when you start to see evidence of that, you've almost gained like a spokesperson to be like, hey, you like, someone, back in the day used to say like this dude was on mushrooms and saying this stuff, but now it's like I've seen what it can do to my kid and the effect that could have, and then you're almost making a believer out of the parent, and then maybe they end up trying it out and they start spreading the message too, which is super super cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, how awesome is that? Okay, I want to make sure that we put a pin in this because I think it's important. I would love for you to like take me through something that you do with students or at a speaking event or whatever you want to call it. And I'd love to hear like, hey, what does that look like? And then we can kind of leave people with some tangible tools because I think when you come on and you talk about this stuff, it's like, yeah, we're now bought in. Somebody's listening for whatever we at 50 minutes now. They're bought in. They're bought into the fact that this is something that's relevant and can be helpful. So how do we now take this and apply it? Whether it's one small, simple step to be able to do it. So take me through, man. Give me the full Malcolm experience. I'm ready.
Sweet, man. Sweet. I will take you through what I did for a youth wellness advisory council committee, if you will, actually this week. So yeah, man, the Kevin Love Fund, they're huge. around mental health. And I've done some
Tell
partnership
people
work.
who don't know who Kevin Love is real quick before,
Very
because some
true.
people may not know. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Kevin Love is a current, and he's still in the league, current NBA player who has been in the league for a long time, been in the NBA for a while, two-time NBA champion, I believe. And yeah, just an awesome guy and a huge advocate of mental health. And he actually had his moment. He had a mental health scare while he was on the court. And so he is one of the first NBA players who actually opened up about mental health and needed to take care of that in order to be his best on and off the court. So he is one of, if not the biggest advocate of mental health in the NBA. So awesome guy.
You're two worlds together, man. Basketball and this. It's great.
That's right, man. That's right. So yeah, part of the work that Kevin is doing along with his fund is they have a group of high school kids, about 20 kids or so, and each and every one of them are very bought into mental health and wellness. And so I was on a call with these kids the other night, along with some of the team members from the fund. And my goal was to take them through a quick breathing exercise and just help them develop, hold on to, take a tool that they can use both in that moment and, more importantly, in moments moving forward. So I'll take you through exactly what I did for them.
Let's do it.
Oh, awesome. All right. So wherever you are, Blaise, if you are listening, simply just find a position that works for you, whatever's comfortable, eyes open, dimmed, closed. That choice is 100% yours. All we're going to do is we are going to inhale simply for 2 seconds. We will hold for 4 seconds. And then we will exhale for 6 seconds. If you can't exhale for 6 seconds, simply exhale for as long as you comfortably can. This should not feel forced. Shouldn't feel rushed. It should simply feel calm, part of you. So we're going to do this together, and I'm going to guide you through it each and every step of the way. We'll start off by inhaling for 2. Here we go. In. Hold for 4. Out for 6. In for 2. Hold. Out for 6. In for 2. Hold. Out for 6. Two more. In for 2. Hold. Out for 6. Last one. In for 2. Hold. Out for 6. And before we come back together again, I want you to just stay in this moment. I want you to just think about what thoughts come to your mind. I want you to think about how you feel. I want you to just be here in the present moment. Take about 15 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wherever you are, if your eyes are closed, slowly start to flutter them back open. Start Start to send awareness throughout all parts of your body by wiggling the fingers, moving the toes, rotating the neck, bringing us back to this beautiful space and place. Welcome back, my man.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's great. Have you been a yoga instructor in the past? Is there any no?
No, never. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I've just done it a lot in the classroom.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can tell. No, that's awesome, man. I hope people were able to exercise that too. I feel like that was like super nice.
Yeah, man.
It would be interesting too, and I know we're a little bit, post fact. I would be interested to see if somebody were to take their heart rate prior to and then after that to see kind of how that shifts in just that. I don't know, how long was that exercise? 3 minutes?
I'd say
Something
right
like
around
that.
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To see what a difference of 3 minutes would end up making.
Yeah.
In your day.
Yeah.
I bet there's some science to that too that we potentially missed out on.
Yeah, man. It's interesting. I'll leave you with one quick story, just because you mentioned the heart rate piece. So when I was teaching in Georgia, I had a student that was my student when they were in third grade, and then again when I taught fourth and fifth grade. So that year I went to coordinator of lower school health and wellness. And she was now in fifth grade. So this was my last year at the school. She came into my classroom one morning and she said, "Mr. Boone, I got to tell you something." I said, "All right, girl, lay it on me. What you got?" And she said, "Well, yesterday I was in class." I said, "Which class?" She said, "The other class." Cool. And she said, "I looked down at my watch and my heart rate was at 99. And so I asked her, I said, "Well, did you just come from recess? Were you doing an activity in class? Did something happen?" She said, "No, I was just sitting there. I wasn't doing anything. I was writing, I was doing my work. But I had the awareness to know that that was a little high." And I said, "Okay, what'd you do?" She said, "I just started doing water breathing, which is a inhale for 4, exhale for 4. And I said, "Okay." She said, "I looked down at my heart rate. It went from 99 to 92. I said, "Okay." She said, "I did it again. It went from 92 to 86. I did it again. I saw it dropping 86, 82, 82, 79, 79, 74. And her heart rate in that moment, this girl who I taught 2 years prior, we'd always do mindfulness activities with, we'd always do breathing activities with, and again in fifth grade, over that 2-year span, she knew my heart rate is elevated right now. So what can I do in this moment to change it? And she felt so proud and she felt so accomplished and so eager to let me know I did this yesterday. I had the awareness, I applied the tool, and I saw the change. So I wanted to let you know that. And so to your point, Blaise, when you mentioned the science behind the change in heart rate, I just had to share that because it came to my heart and my mind. So I wanted to share that for you.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's another super simple tool to be able to use. And I'm sure, and it may be a shameless plug for some of those things, but I know there's a bunch of apps nowadays as well that kind of help help bring some awareness to that. Do you have any favorites that you've utilized in the past, maybe with a group or something like that you could give a quick shout out to? And then we'll talk about how people can connect with you if they're interested. And, maybe I'll have you come to the school that my wife's subbing at and come chat with those kids. We can talk about that too, for sure.
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Good. Yeah. Tell me about some of the apps that you like, that you've used in the past or seen people have success with. And then you can tell me where people can find you, and I'll make sure to put all that stuff in the show notes as well.
Sweet, man. Thank you.
Of course.
The biggest app I will start with is an app called Core. It is a meditation app.
Is Core Core?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And it's a meditation device that you hold in your hand. It has bio sensors on it. So you place your thumbs on it and it can track your nervous system, gives you instant bioavailable feedback as soon as you're done with a breathing session. They have soundscapes. Yeah, I believe they're called soundscapes on there. They have different guided breathing exercises. And a good friend of both my brother and I, she started it. And she started it, I think it was back in 2016, 2017, or something like that. And yeah, she changed the game for me. She really, and my brother and a lot of other people who have used the core device as well. So that's first and foremost. Shout out to Sarah McDivitt, who did start that core app. I use it every single morning without fail. It has changed my life. Another one is Moonbird, which is a similar concept, but instead of holding it with two hands, I mean, I guess you could, but you really just need the one. And then it has the biosensor on there as well. And you hold it, you'll feel it inflate. That's your cue to inhale. And then when it deflates, that's your cue to exhale. Same concept, same idea. When you finish a session, then you get the feedback that shows your heart rate, your HRV, all good things like that. So, and both are devices that I've used in the classroom with my students, and they absolutely love it because it's a video game for them.
Yeah. I actually had one that I'll give a plug to as well. I had a vagal nerve stimulator. Have you heard of this technology before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Coolest?
So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that Nick Hool, the Hoolist, I'll shout out to those guys. I actually, when they first came on a number of years ago, he was on the podcast. I believe I had Nick on chatting about the whole thing, and I actually had him come and speak to the people at the air station where I was stationed out in Sacramento as well about the technology. And he gave me 8 devices that I like passed around as he talked, and people were able to throw the nerve stimulator on. So for people that don't know what this is, it is essentially like stim, like e-stim. If you've ever had like a sports injury, and it's like the electrical stimulation, I like to say almost like a shocking pen, if you will, but a little bit less intense. But you'll put it right behind your ear on the vagal nerve, which I'm sure you know based on your knowledge of like stress and those things. The vagal nerve is connected huge within the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. So Nick was a golfer, and he had a hard time calming down before he played. So at a high competitive level in golf, if you muff the first 4 or 5 holes, the rest of your round can be like set pretty far back. So he had a hard time in the beginning, and then he would settle into a routine and then continue. Well, he took that idea and was like, hey, how can I utilize my technical knowledge, my degree to help fix this thing? And he created this, and I call it, or he calls it the vagal nerve simulator. And they've got other models now where there's headphones that have like the stims on either side as well. But it also has timers to where it will like, when it's activated, that's when you're supposed to inhale and or exhale. So shout out to those guys as well. We actually have a partnership with them too, because when I got all the devices, I left them at the air station, and I put my wallet on the line. I had to get, I believe it was 16 testimonial videos from people at the unit, so that he would basically like give them. So I like signed my life away. I'm like, hey, I'm out, call it like $5,000 if I don't get these testimonials around. So I'm walking around being like, hey guys, test this out. We really wanted to like talk to him for a minute because I'm going to leave him at the unit. This is for you guys. But those guys have been great too, and they're continually developing awesome stuff as well. So if people are interested, Core, what was it? What was the second?
Moonbird.
And then the Hoolist, check those guys out. So Malcolm, tell me last, I'll have you ask or answer one more question, and then we'll give your socials or website information as well. If you could give people one piece of advice when it comes to living a more mindful or managing stress or breath work style of thing in your kind of lane, what would you leave people with for a piece of advice? And then tell me where people can find you to learn more.
Piece of advice.
Come on, infinite wisdom from playing professional basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you got something in there. It doesn't even have to be breath work related. It could be whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, because our world is always shifting, and I'm a big guy of consistency, I would say to somebody, can you stay true to what you said you were going to do long after the mood that you've set it in has left? because things are always changing and evolving in our world. And what we say we're going to do, our word, our bond, it matters. And life isn't going to stop lifing, but we have to continue to show up. And I think once you can affirm that mindset and you can believe in yourself enough, you can empower yourself enough to do the things that you said you were going to do, I think it's going to put you in a beautiful space to, I'm not a big fan of the word, but succeed in whatever it is you want to be better at. So stay true to the thing you said you would do long after the mood that you said it in is left.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Where can people find you, man?
Breathing is Freedom is pretty much every handle. So my website is www.breathingisfreedom.com. Instagram, Breathing is Freedom. That is, let's see. Yep. Facebook as well. We have TikTok. Yeah. Everything is Breathing is Freedom. If you pop it in, you'll find me. And if you can't, then just type in Malcolm Boone and I'm sure something will come up.
Yeah. And then we'll leave it in the show notes for everybody to just make one click. We'll make it easy for them. Malcolm, I really want to thank you, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed the chat for real. I thought this was like really great. Your energy, just the message that you carry, I think expertise and simplicity, right? Like people are looking for ways to make things simple. And, you know, you set a timer or you have a device or you find a way to check in with yourself and then have these tangible benefits of, you know, I think you told probably like 6 stories of somebody coming up to you and just saying like, hey, this has affected me and or my kid, which, you know, for the parents out there, like what more could you actually ask for to have an effect on someone like that at such a young age, to set them up for success? Like affirmations as a 5-year-old, could you imagine having affirmations as a 30-year-old if you had them when you were 5, you know, circa, you know, it's amazing. So keep it up, man. I really enjoyed the chat and I'll definitely have to have you on again sometime.
Looking forward to it, Blaise. Man, thank you again for the space. Thank you for the time. I truly appreciate you, man.
For sure, brother. All right, guys. That's all we got. Find Malcolm in the show notes and just don't be a weirdo with him. And if you guys listen this long, drop us a 5-star. I appreciate it. And remember, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.